You had the Lancashire Senior Cup the other day, and the under-23s didn't quite make it through the final hurdle. I just kind of, as we're coming towards the end of the season, and you've introduced some of those under-23s players, how much is that now a real asset? How much is the kind of under-18s having a youth cup run and being in good form, and the 23s doing well this season and potentially having a league and cup that they had on Monday, and kind of being able to have those younger players coming through your own ranks as you prepare for next season, as we talked about the other day?
Well, there's nothing better than I think I'm going to equate this stupid now. There's nothing better than growing your own, isn't it? And I think the fans appreciate it when the players come through the ranks. This is the model that we were seeking 3 or 4 years ago, where we had everyone on the same site. Unfortunately, that hasn't materialised. It's getting closer now. Still not quite there with our own training ground, but the idea was to have a progression, and I think we've certainly got that now. You can't think certainly, can you? You've either certainly got it or you think you've got it. Yeah, anyway. We have got it. And it means you can carry a smaller squad. So people look at our squad now and think you've got 30 odd players. Well, we haven't. In reality, we've got 10, 11 under 23 players in a squad of about 22, which possibly 22, 23, which is probably still a bit too big, which will enable us, given the success that these younger lads have had, to maybe trim our squad down a little bit further next year, and hopefully push on. Some of the players who've come through the 23s don't know how to place in the first team, which is good. And whenever you get things like that, you want more. So we do want more.
I suppose this time of year, traditionally, we might say this is the time to give some of these younger players an opportunity. But do you feel like, kind of through necessity and through the way it's worked out, you've already given the ones that would have been knocking on the door their chance?
Yeah, you can't disrespect the league, though. You can't disrespect the fixture that you're playing in, and you can't disrespect the fans. Now, if the players are good enough, they'll play. If we think they're good enough and they're able to cope, they'll play. And that's the harsh reality of it. That's my job, to pick the team. And at any given day, pick the team that I think's right. And if you watched the other night, there's some unbelievable performances last night on the other night against Burnley, and that bodes well for the future.
Just on that game, Rhys Fenlon has been waiting for so long and working so hard to get himself back into contention. How has that been for him?
It's frustrating, and a little bit like Joe Pritchard. When an injury reoccurs, when you're just at the end of your rehabilitation, it's soul destroying. I was pleased for him more than anybody. One, him getting on the pitch, and two, him scoring. And I like my Sykes to score anyway. So, but he's a talent, Rhys, and hopefully we can get at him.
Do you have to be, and this applies to Joe as well, I guess, do you have to be sort of extra patient with players that have been out for that length of time?
I think you do, and I think, football isn't ever evolving, it's ever changing. Not always evolving for the better, but it's changing, and improvements in technology means diagnosis of injuries are a lot better. So you're aware of injuries more than what you were in the past, and players are possibly out longer for longer periods than what they were originally. But it was all guesswork. The guesswork getting gradually taken out of it now with the science that you've got available. And you'd be churlish to ignore that. But you've got to get a balance right between being ultra cautious. So, if you don't want to get run over, don't ever cross a road. Well, you'll achieve your objective by never crossing the road, but you spoil your life. So, we've got to balance it. That eventually you got to take the plunge. You got to play, and thankfully we're getting that balance right. We're getting them players on the pitch, and the more minutes they get, I'm sure the stronger they'll get.
And clearly, it's not all about players coming in at 8, 9, 10 years old and coming all the way through your system. You can bring them in to your system. It's Tommy Lee's birthday today, 22. He's got 8 goals in League One this season at this level, having been playing for Bognor Regis. Is that a really good example? You've done it before, of course, but with this structure, is that a good example of something you want to do more of?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I don't think Tommy would have broken into the first team without the exposure to playing in the 23s. And that goes for, you know, Coley, the same. And, you know, it's getting harder because, you know, I'm lucky, I'm really fortunate in the fact that I've got two unbelievable coaches in Jimmy Bell and John Coleman. You know, Jimmy's obviously assistant manager, but as a coach, he's a very, very good coach. And I keep saying this, and I'll say it till the cows come home, they're underrated. You know, the input they do, the work they do, the knowledge that they pass on to players is very, very good, and it's, you know, they're one of the best English coaches, in my opinion, around, them two. And so I'm lucky that over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, I've been able to devote more of my time to recruitment. And I can watch over training and have an input when I think necessary, which also adds a bit more weight when I do come in. So it's a good balance. But I've found over the last 2 or 3 years where, I don't know whether word gets out that we're interested in a player, but once we're interested in a player, the floodgates seem to open. So I think we've got a reputation for finding hidden gems. But it's harder now because nearly every club's got a recruitment department and they're all looking in the same pools. And so where you could generally go under the radar in the past, it's getting harder because there's that many people looking, and very rarely do players go unnoticed now.
Do you still at least partly rely on people you know and word of mouth?
Of course, because I can't employ a scouting network, I can't employ a recruitment team. And to be honest, I'm comfortable with it, so I'm not complaining by that. You know, I'm happy with my own judgment, and you don't get them all right, but we've had a lot right in the last 5 or 6 years. And so, whilst it is getting harder, I appreciate that, but I still like to trust my own judgment, and I think possibly one of the big distractions now is people are tying everyone up now. So, you know, you can't go into non-league and take a player for 5 to 10 grand. No, it's costing you 30s and 40s.
Easter weekend, Ross Sykes back in contention. When we talk about players that have come through the ranks, has he fulfilled his potential this season? Has he come of age this season?
He epitomises what we're about. You know, release from Burnley. I must admit, first time I saw him, Lodgy did an unbelievable job. Lodgy and Andy did an unbelievable job with him. Because first time I saw him, he looked ungainly, and I thought he made a couple of mistakes. I think it was against Coley the first time I saw him in a friendly. And then the difference a year later was night and day. And his personality is brilliant. His attitude is A+. And I'm fortunate because he's got to work with players who've also got good attitudes and good attributes. So Mark Hughes, he would have learnt a lot of Mark Hughes. Michael Nottingham, who's an outstanding pro, probably one of the best pros I've ever worked with. Yeah, Michael Nottingham. And so that's got to rub off on you. And he's taking it to another level. So, you know, all credit to him and his family. The way he's being brought up and the attitude he shows towards football, it's different class.
He's the latest one to have a host and clubs linked with him and rumours around him. Does that have an effect? Do you think that'll affect him with the character that he is?
Not at all, no, he'll laugh it off.
And from your point of view, you don't welcome people coming in for your players, but is it a good thing that you're being noticed and recognised and your players are considered good enough to be linked with those clubs?
If I'm honest, it's hard. It'd be hard to lose them, but could anyone begrudge Ross going into the Championship? Not me, no. You know, he's earned that right. He's given us a great service. You know, and if we get the money that he's worth, everyone's a winner. And then we have to go and get the next Ross Sykes. But I certainly don't want to lose him. And I think he's a very, very key part of what we do.
2 home games left. You've already got more wins and more points at home than you had last season. I think you could just about, if you win both home games remaining, have enough points to stay up just on home games. That is a brilliant base to build from next season, I suppose, but I suppose you also can't take for granted that it'll continue.
Yeah, I mean, there's a different school of thought, and people think that the better the facilities, the niche of going to Little Accrington and hating it goes away. Well, I think we've dispelled that because we've had a brilliant pitch all season, and our own form's been very good, and we play well on a good pitch. So, you know, we're thankful for Alty for spending the money on the pitch and the ground staff for doing the job that they do. But I think in any league and football, you've got to dominate at home, and you know our focus will turn on to dominating away.
Burton don't score a lot of goals at the moment. You tend to concede quite a few. How welcome would a clean sheet be?
Well, they don't concede a lot though, do they? You know, 0-0 last night against the league leaders. Listen, we're always searching for a clean sheet, and we've just got to keep going. But it's important that you take that out the equation and just win games, and you win games by scoring goals. So our main focus on Friday will be trying to score goals.
Talk about Ross being back. Is there any other personnel stuff?
1 or 2 knocks, 1 or 2 that might struggle to play 2 games in 3 days, but we'll see.